Okay, great.
Warming up.
Side by side.
If you are watching this episode in the future, you are watching a recorded live stream, which means we will start in a few minutes. Feel free to jump forward or spend the next few minutes watching us manually reshare our link. Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta get people to join the uh the stream to begin with to kind of get things going. Funnily, I have Union Bank messaging me random stuff just as I was talking about them.
Facebook link is working. Resharing now to the mailing list. We're probably one of the few people left in the world who uses the term mailing list. Resharing now.
I am tweeting. That's the Facebook thing, and then
Oh, we haven't updated the times, title times image yet.
yeah, and I think yeah, I haven't gotten a thumbnail from you.
Oh, it's in Messenger.
Oh, okay.
Unless you needed the.
That should be fine. I'm just used to you passing me the thing. It's yeah, it's a lot going on this week. Pum, 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 pum.
Okay. I do think everything is running right.
Okay, I've just posted.
YouTube is running. Facebook is running. Link shared to the message, to the mailing list, and to Twitter.
So yes, we are about ready to go. Just uh, giving people maybe another minute or so to join. So to make conversation, we finished The Way of Hot and Spicy on Netflix, which turned out to be a bit more enjoyable than I had originally anticipated. Although still not as not as engaging as things like Midnight Diner and stuff. So that was cool. So I'm gonna have to figure out another Japanese food related show to watch over dinner. Um, but then like a lot of good stuff. I mean, like Lock and Key's back, so interesting to see. That's probably gonna tie into today's discussion actually. Um, the original Cowboy Bebop is on Netflix,
Mhm.
so you can watch it now in the month leading up to
The live action.
the live action series. Hello, Casturillo. Welcome. We're about to start. We're just giving time people to join the stream. We talk about stuff to read for Halloween.
Yeah, I'm bothered by the light. It's struggling with their black shirts.
As always,
And then look, I like change in tone by just moving around.
is magic. Oh, and hey, Julius is on Facebook. Hello, Julius. And you have meowed us.
We will start in 1 minute. In 1 minute.
I have no props, which is ironic in a house with many, many things.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to pull the props out. My books are not the used accessible things. Uh, uh. Yeah, I think I'm generally ready for today's discussion. More because um, books is the one form of horror I can probably handle the most. So
Mhm.
yay me. Okay. Okay, we're gonna roll credits and then we'll get this thing started.
Oh yeah! Really right.
This is Toby.
And this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, a little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
It's completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us as we talk about everything and anything random life.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us again. This Friday, we're talking about the books, the comics, and whatever other reading related horror that we would like to
The pamphlets,
recommend to you
the flyers,
to consider checking out this Halloween.
things written on napkins. So, hey, whatever floats your boat, right? There's always something to read for Halloween. Ooh. Balancing my checkbook, scary.
Now, mind you, Rocky reads a lot. He reads practically one book a day.
I have to do more.
Right, but that's like your
That's the
minimum.
goal.
Your
That's the goal.
minimum is at least 365 books every year.
Yes, but okay, but to balance that out, it's not like full blown novels all the time. So that the 365 goal developed because I read a lot of comics, I listen to audiobooks, and all these things, and so to balance it out, then like to be fair,
But you don't track
365.
individual issues.
No, I track the equivalent of trade paperback, so it's about 120 to 140 pages,
So you're still
Not
tracking
bad.
basically a book.
basically, but not quite. Just to be fair, because people might say like you didn't read 365 novels, and so like I can't claim that credit. And sometimes I read while listening to an
So
audiobook.
what makes a novel a novel? Page length.
Yeah, isn't that the most basic thing? I mean, like there's a lot of arguments in your literary circles about how to precisely define a novel,
Mhm.
but a novel is generally accepted to be of a certain length versus a novella,
Mhm.
which is annoying. Or if you want to really segment it out, how much does it cost on Amazon? Because a novella is probably under $5, whereas a full blown novel is about 10 to 12.
Oh my gosh. So like if a book's like on super sale, you can say, novela na lang siya.
Oh, and I mostly buy books when they're $2.
So you only buy novellas.
I
Because
only
they're-
buy novellas when Star Trek books get treated as novella. Sometimes they're 99 cents. Ooh. Hello, Mitch. Welcome, welcome.
Okay, so Julius shares horror story with toilet paper. Oh my gosh.
AKA Manto. What does that mean?
I do not know. I don't think I want to know.
Okay, okay.
The moment there's horror toilet paper, I think we no need.
So, despite Toby trying to pick on how I tend to read a fair
I'm
amount
not
of
picking
things,
on it. I'm just stating you would have more to share
but actually, horror is still not my primary genre.
by choice.
Oh, by choice. Yes, obviously by choice. Because I can barely stand horror movies. So, but I can better handle horror in its written form. And then there are cases even that
Mm.
if I have read it, it makes it easier for me to handle any screen adaptation, whether TV and the
I
like.
see. So Julius clarifies it's the ghost called Akamanto, which I
Mm.
thought he meant also known as Manto.
AKA
Yes.
Manto.
Okay. But Akamanto is the red cape, a malicious spirit who haunts public bathrooms in Japan.
Oh, did you answer Mitch about what shirt we're wearing? It's the Katya party shirt. It's a reference to her All Star run. So yeah. Mitch says I have a few ghost stories and one time zombie pa. Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the stuff we've been reading, and then we can, I guess, segue beyond that to stuff we'd recommend.
Mm.
Sounds good?
My lines will blur because I will recommend what I'm reading.
Yeah, but some of them might be stuff you read before, so you
Yeah,
still want to
yeah.
recommend.
Okay, okay. Because I guess if anything, like was this which is not something I'm currently reading, but I will loop
Mhm.
around to it again because I have a new edition.
Mhm.
Is that surprisingly, I will still recommend and embrace the original Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Mhm.
So, and that started with there was a period in my life where I had access to very few books, and one of the books that had been lent to me at the time was Bram Stoker's
Mhm.
Dracula, and I had no plans of reading it, but I ran out of stuff to read, so eventually I read it, and then it's not so bad. I mean, I thought it could be a lot more archaic. There are a lot of older books from that period that are like hard to
Mhm.
read, but Bram Stoker's Dracula is actually quite well done. Then if you've seen the movie, um,
Yes.
then it flows generally like that in terms of the book, and that makes it a little easier to appreciate. And there are cases like that where sometimes watching the movie makes the book easier,
Mhm.
and um, it is presented as a series of letters,
Mhm.
which is what's fascinating. So it's everybody
There's a
writing to
there's a
everybody else,
term for that. Uh, um,
and then
Wait, keep going. I
yeah,
remember there's a term for that.
and then I have listened to an audible full performance version of it, which is great. And then it had things like Alan Cummings as I think he was Dr. Seward,
Mm-hmm.
uh, things like that. So it's a story you can enjoy in so many ways. And then so our dear friend Karen, one of the books that I acquired from her collection, which was bequeathed after her passing,
Mm-hmm.
was this illustrated edition of Dracula, and it's not like a
Yes.
full blown yeah, it's not a full blown comic book, but it has certain added illustrations by Jay
Yes.
Lee because oh my god, I rarely remember names of artists, but then Jay Lee's work on the Dark Tower comics for Marvel
Mm-hmm.
was really great. Um, so yeah, I feel like then this is really expansive. There are so many ways to enjoy Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the story holds up. And like more than with no offense, this is just a personal preference. More than Anne Rice, I would still recommend Bram Stoker.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like genuinely creepy stuff.
I think what made Anne Rice great was that it was not heavy to read into.
Mm-mm.
Because Bram Stoker was still heavy in the sense of the language and like,
Yes.
so the term was epistolaric when the story is told through letters.
Oh, okay. And Dracula's funny because it's like everybody writing everybody else. It's like,
Mhm.
and it's not always just writing one another. It could be a letter to another character, but you don't necessarily see the reply from that
Mm.
character. And then there are cases now that multiple letters sent to one person, and then what's happening? You're not getting feedback,
Mhm.
but because that's the nature of the time.
So
So,
to follow that train of thought, some of the books I inherited from Karen as well were the Poppy Z Bright books.
mm,
I kind of suspected people might not be aware of her work, so nobody might claim them. So I decided to offer up and claim them. So these range from Lost Souls, Exquisite Corpse, Drawing Blood, Wormwood. There's a bunch of others, but it was these four main ones which I've encountered before, given away, and now have re-inherited.
mm.
Um, Simply put, I love her writing because she uses the different senses.
Is
She,
it a girl or a guy?
I think it's a girl, but I guess I could be wrong. It seems to be a guy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am so wrong.
I'm looking at the stuff.
I'm
Hey.
so sorry. But yeah, the descriptors would be like, normally you talk about an alleyway, people talk about how dark it is or
Okay.
how cold or how lonely. Here it would be about how it smells
Okay.
or uh, how um, someone's about to die and you're talking about the sound, the gurgling, and all this and that. But then here it'll be about how the skin feels. And there's that approach to different senses that I really like in terms of the writing.
And these are still like vampire stories, right?
Yes,
They're still vampire
but
related,
not limited to.
not limited to. Okay. Okay. And then like
Sorry, not female.
in
My
terms
mistake.
of tonality, how would you compare it to like Anne Rice?
Anne Rice still has a romantic side.
Darn, Toreadors.
Yeah. This one would be more um, edgy, but not edgy Anne Rice. I don't know how to distinguish. Okay, I think I get it.
Name a clan.
No, no, no. Poppy Z. Bright is more the crow.
Oh,
Then,
okay.
well, Anne Rice is more.
Crow 1, Crow 2. No, I'm kidding.
So Poppy Z. Bright's more crow one. Anne Rice is more crow two.
Ooh,
Right?
not shady, just true.
Because
Yeah,
Crow
yeah.
2
It's
is
just totally
very.
changed in tone.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. That's cool.
And that's not to say we don't like Anne Rice.
Yeah,
I still enjoy
it's a
Anne Rice
different
stories.
flavor.
Surprisingly, though, the Anne Rice story I love the most, not the Vampire Diaries and stuff.
Which would that be?
Cry to Heaven.
What's that?
The one about the castrati.
Oh, I'm not familiar. I mean, like,
I'm double checking if I got the title right,
although
but that's what I
surprisingly, I
remember.
have read some of the Vampire Chronicles because again, because in that period of time, I had access to no other books, and then
Yes.
some of the
So
books I had were the Vampire
so
Chronicles.
Cry to Heaven um, follows the path of two unlikely collaborators, a Venetian noble and a maestro from Calabria, both trying to succeed in the world of opera. And one of the
Oh,
characters is a castrati, a boy who lost the stuff in order to sing the perfect voice. And
mm-mm.
I,
That's
I
tricky.
like this story.
Okay. For more contemporary reading, like I tried to challenge myself and
Mhm,
told myself I should read something for October.
mhm,
And then my closest approach has been I've been diving back into my collection of Alien comic books. And
mhm.
Alien like the movie Alien and Aliens.
Yes.
So uh there have been different incarnations of the title over the
Mhm,
years. I think the most famous run is still the Dark Horse run, which spanned quite a while. And then the most recent is that Marvel now has the license. And I have not read the new Marvel Alien stuff. I'm waiting for it to go on sale or the next Marvel buy one take one sale, which is probably gonna be in Feb. So I have time to
mhm.
read other things. But
Which alien comics have you been reading?
okay, so I'm already in the weird late 2000s where they did a bunch of like these mini series, Defiance, Resistance, that thing, whatever.
Mm.
Which is like okay, I'm only in the middle of Defiance right now, and the art is nice. It's cleaner than what I've seen. Many alien books resort to dirty, very dirty art to
Mhm.
depict the environment, and then but then admittedly. A lot of the alien stories fall into the sad trap of very heavy tropisms. Like almost every alien story is idiots encounter aliens and die.
Corporation steps in.
Corporation is being a bastard.
Military wants to weaponize.
Yeah. So it's those tropes. But if there is any alien line I would actually recommend, it is what is captured in the omnibus editions
Mhm.
of the alien comics, which still captures like not the film related sequels because there are funny ones like before Aliens came out they wrote their own sequel to Alien,
Yeah.
and then before Alien 3 came out they had all these different comics with like continuing adventures of Newt and
This
Hicks.
was like Earth War and stuff, right?
Not quite, but
Didn't
the
Earth War cover Newt still alive and Hicks?
many stories have covered new, but there's a particular subline that are black and white which I also
Mhm.
read recently, which are like so weird so different. But the main one where it was like uh I'll pull it up. I looked it up earlier before this and I didn't prepare myself fully. um but yeah, I still love the uh where is that. But that main line that had even things like um 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 man, where is the I need someone to break down what's in the omnibus. Um okay, I'm loading so that I just don't want to misspeak. Yeah, so it's things like Outbreak, Nightmare Asylum, Female War, the theory of alien propagation,
Mhm.
the alien. So that line of Dark Horse comics, which I realize also that I have read multiple times because I've read them as comic books
Mhm.
and I've read them as novels. So there was a time that they were releasing all of these also as novels in the heyday of the 90s, and like everybody had a book. So it's only late that I read the books first, and then
Mhm.
later I read the comics. Like, oh, I know this story, which established a lot of the tropes, which then get repeated forever across the books. So your mileage will vary in the later Alien stuff. Like I can only strongly recommend that main run when they started off. Not quite no, not when they started off, but when they made this whole plan of like what the story is gonna be. And then I think there are a lot of weird alien crossover books, not
Mhm.
just Alien versus Predator, because that was still like its own thing, but
Mhm.
Aliens and Superman,
Yeah.
Aliens and whatnot. Those are generally fun. Those are
Mhm.
generally fun and very contrived. Because like the Alien Superman one, they had Superman encounter the aliens on a world with a red sun. So
Mhm.
then he did not have his full powers. So
Then he got hit on the forehead.
yeah, so that he'd be vulnerable, which is ultimately like, most one-off adventures of people not on the same power scale, then you need to depower Superman so that there's a story.
And they really went wild with the comics. They had like the alien cow and
So
the
many
different
things,
animals.
so
They
many
they really went to
variations.
see how far they'd go.
There's one with like I think the artist for Hellboy did a short story which is
Mhm.
Alien Salvation, which is this whole religious
Yeah, I
guy,
think
but
Salvation was the one I'm trying to remember because I'm trying to look for the cover. Yes, it was Salvation. Yes, it was this one.
yeah, right. The super religious guy,
Yeah,
and then he
and
interprets the
brilliant
aliens
art,
differently. The
brilliant
art was
art.
very beautiful. The story was like just okay, but
Yeah.
but the art was great. There was one I got to read recently, which some people, when I was looking at reviews, like they weren't nice. Darn, now I can't remember. I'll have to look at my Goodreads and like what did I finish this week? So I finished like three of them the other night. Um, just it just happened. So so because I'm trying to clear my queue, like I pulled up Aliens and then which are the books I have not read, and then I'm attacking those. Um, uh, in Human Condition. Okay, In Human Condition is by John Layman. Um, mileage will vary. The art kasi is the guy who did the Max.
Sam Keith.
I think. Yeah, yeah. Was it Max? I think so. Wait, I have to double check now. I think that was a comment someone had.
Maybe
Uh,
just yeah, Sam Keith. Looks
yeah,
like him.
yeah. So that was really cool. That was really cool. Hey Jed, hello. And then that one, I like the layers of the story. I like the layers
Mm-hmm.
because the protagonist was not your standard stupid person encountering aliens.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot more to it, and uh, the one thing I will cite is that the setting was so unique because it's set on a planet which produces the synthetics.
Mm-hmm.
So we've always seen the androids everywhere, and their main job in Alien comics is to get ripped in half.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, that particular story was like, oh, we're on a planet of
Mm-hmm.
synthetics. So then it became very interesting.
But you haven't gotten to the latest line.
Yeah, the Marvel one I have not yet because I'm waiting for it to go on sale before I buy
Yeah.
it.
So, of what I've seen, I'm very intrigued how they decided to make what was generally a tough, muscular inner mouth that's thrust like a spear,
Oh, it looks a
suddenly more
little
tentacly.
bendy.
Yeah, and that messed up a lot of his fans. That that's not how that works.
It is literally. I have had multiple toys, and it is a
And
rod.
it's normally the solid rod with the strong muscular
Yeah,
support
because
because
it
it's a
it
thrusting
it
motion.
punctures.
Yeah. So
So
now to have it this way, and then the end is like vampire fangs. So I
yeah,
don't know yet how to feel about this. I haven't gotten into it.
that's why I'm waiting for it to be super on sale. And maybe that's just cover art. To be fair, it may not be
Hopefully.
related to the interior art. So, and that's the one other thing about Alien comics is that over the years, fantastic covers. I mean, and it's not HR Giger Geiger again anymore. But it's everybody celebrating the
Hmm.
xenomorph design in so many different ways. So that's always good. I would recommend it. And yeah, that's my main Halloween read this
Hmm.
month. It's like I'm trying to catch up with the Alien books I haven't read yet. Okay. What else? What else are you reading
So
recently?
also inherited and previously purchased were the Junji Ito stuff.
Mm.
Um, the most recent ones are Sensor, which I haven't found yet. But then if you have the old classics from Tommy, to I forgot the name of the other one, Uzumaki, of course. They're always still a good read. You will understand what that means when you know someone who has read the book and they say, "This is my whole. It is meant for me," and that makes perfect sense. Um,
I've only read the cat one.
the cat one, surprisingly, is the non-horror one of his
Yeah,
work, and it's the most popular one, which
but
frustrates you.
it's also drawn
In the
in his
same,
horror
in his
style.
same disturbing style.
Yeah, so it's literally these disturbing depictions of his wife, and she has complained about it because like he depicts the wife largely in an outfit she never wears
Mhm.
and without pupils. So it's normally all white. So it's kind of creepy.
But yeah, so definitely worth checking out if you want to dive into horror. Very different from the usual approaches.
I have a couple of them in my collection
Mhm.
other than the cat one, which I haven't gotten to, but I pick them up when they're on sale. That's see that's my comicsology that's my that's my comicsology problem. I keep
Mhm.
picking up titles on sale and then I squirrel them away and then I will eventually read them. So like what do I have? I
Yeah,
just
you have sensor.
no, this is
Oh,
the
that's what's
search. This is the
available.
search. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I thought
So
you had
so
sensor.
I don't have I have Shiver
Mhm.
and Smash. I have the older stuff kasi nga it's I wait for it to go on sale and then I
Yeah.
grab it. So yeah, always get your comics 50 off.
And
Okay.
for those who like other horror comics, so Vampire the Masquerade does have the Vampire Winter's Teeth line, which is interesting because it's a comic, but then at the end of every few pages, they try to add new systems.
Hmm.
So that's where I got your ritual to use blood to write and stuff, and
Oh,
so it's an interesting way
the
that they're
Sacred
trying.
Sacrament.
Yeah, the way they're trying to add more and more to the comic, to the game line through the
Oh, and
comics.
it's an ongoing. It's
Yeah,
new.
it's ongoing.
I'm fascinated.
So that's interesting. And then there's Harrow County. It ran from 2015 to 2018 by the writer Cullen Bunn and the artist Tyler Crook, published by Dark Horse um, Comics. Comic is interesting because it's nice, small town horror magic type of stories. But the more intriguing thing about it is, word has it, it might have an upcoming board game
Hmm?
by the same people behind the Mind Management board game.
Okay.
So just, I'm
Intriguing.
intrigued to see what it'll be like.
Intriguing.
But the main story revolves around a young girl who might be the reincarnation of this witch, um, and the stories that go around that, including a guy who's all skin and no bones.
Oh, okay. That's creepy. Okay. 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 Darn. I'm thinking. Where do I want to go next? In terms of books, I guess. Okay. In terms of zombies, let's do zombies.
Mm,
So in terms of books, I will start you off with World War Z.
mm.
So World War Z, which is actually the full title is pulling it up just to make sure. It's like World War Z, an oral history of the zombie war.
Yes,
Ah, excellent, excellent. It
and
is
nothing like the movie.
number one. That's the good thing about it. It's nothing like the movie because it's a series of short stories
Hmm.
in a world that has been overtaken by zombies, and it's told in this very gritty, realistic, like I'm addressing you style, and like this is what happened. So it's really an oral history,
Hmm.
and again, this is one of those I read the book, but then oh my god, there is a full cast audible adaptation beautifully done where like they did different voices for all the different
Hmm.
stories. It's very very good listening, so I would strongly recommend that. It is good both. Wait, I'm revealing that I own multiple copies of books, but it is great as a novel and as a audible
And
experience
it's
or
not like
audiobook
and it's
experience.
not like you had to buy them in different formats to count as a book you read that year, right?
No, but they still count as different books because they count rereads. Okay, so yes, I would recommend that.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What would you recommend on the zombie front?
Zombies, zombies. Well, the Walking Dead comics is still fun. I still prefer it far more than the show.
Mm, mm,
But if you want really horror, then Walking Dead, where Walking Dead succeeds in human horror, it's what are people going to do and this and that.
yes.
The horror of monsters you are struggling to really make sense of and are relentless. Then there is this comic line called Crossed. Um, Definitely not for everyone, written by Alan Moore.
Mm,
Um, you have this virus that has a zombie like apocalypse, and they all have this cross like form that appears on their face when they are infected. Um, this does not shy away in very disturbing topics. So only explore it if you're the type of person who found The Boys and Preacher interesting. But if you found those to be too too heavy or too much, then Crossed is not for you.
okay, okay. Sometime back, I read this trilogy of books by Mira Grant called Newsflesh. It was
Mhm.
another one of those set in the set in the zombie era, and I feel guilty because I can't now. I don't remember as well the specifics,
Mhm.
but I enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed it. Let me pull up the reference. So the News Flash here, because it was both science fiction, it was science fiction horror ish.
Mhm.
So it's after a zombie apocalypse. There's a blogger, and then they're trying to follow the presidential campaign of a new candidate. So it's like the worst is over, but they're still living in a zombie world.
Mhm.
So that it was a interesting take, and then all the titles are all the titles are punny because it's like it starts with feed, but then the cover depicts like an RSS feed, which
Mhm.
is ancient by now. The next book was Deadline,
Mhm.
and then the last book was Blackout. So okay, it was fun. It was fun light reading. It was one of the first things I ever read on Kindle. Like I because I got it on sale,
Mhm.
and then like okay, I'll read it. So okay,
Also, on the comics front is Neonomicon, also by Alan Moore. It's a collection of different um, issues. I think it was 4 issues that he compiled into one, which has interconnected stories on his take on the Book of the Dead and Lovecraftian horror. Brilliant use of comics to show how stories are not linear in time when it concerns this type of topics, which includes panels that seem to go everywhere. So,
oh, on the comic front and sort of zombie-ish, there was Afterlife with Archie, which is actually quite good,
mhm.
together with the Chilling Tales of Sabrina, which became sort of the loose basis for the Netflix series. But the problem with Afterlife with Archie is that it never finished.
Mm,
It's frustrating. It's like such a good story, but they never got to finish it.
because
They just never finished it. The creative team never. I think they got derailed because of the Sabrina show,
mm,
and then they never got back to it. But it's like I want to know what happens. But that was super solid reading. So I would also cite that as something fun to read. Um, I'm looking through. Did you ever read 30 Days of Night as a comic?
yeah,
How was it?
it's okay.
That
It's okay.
that feels like it's just the movie
No,
reaction. It's just
it
okay.
wasn't bad, but it wasn't because the horror comics that I really did
Okay.
appreciated would be Fell, which was a Warren Ellis Ben Temple Smith comic.
What's that about?
Um, it's a detective who goes through the big city of Snowtown to deal with things. So the best way to describe it, I guess, in brief, it's like Seven meets Constantine.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's a crime element, but then he discovers it's these jars and they're filled with fetuses, and it's that sort of a dark world. And Temple Smith is an amazing artist. I think he did the art for 30 Days a Night.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Which is okay. Which like the covers are very striking. They
yeah,
always make you want to pick them up.
but
They're on
then
sale now.
yeah, and then in terms of comics outside of zombies, there's uh, if I remember correctly, the title of the comic was White, and it was about a great white shark.
Oh my
I'm trying to
gosh,
find it.
that sounds intriguing.
And it was one of the few comics that actually made me stop reading midway because I was starting to feel actually nervous while reading it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Let me find it.
I'm looking at like, would you consider Hellboy to have horror comic touches?
Yeah,
But
I don't find it scary,
yeah,
but I do find
it's
that
a
it has
it's
good.
supernatural occult.
Yeah, it has good horror elements.
Okay, I have a couple of omnibuses I haven't read, so they're in queue. They're in queue, and then like, oh, in terms of like all the science fiction, well, Dark Horse, there was a particular genre of things that they would make comic books about.
Hmm.
They did a lot of interesting franchise stuff. So obviously they did Aliens. They did Predator so that they could eventually do Aliens versus Predator.
Mm.
And the Dark Horse comics has their whole separate storyline of AVP, which I super love.
Hmm.
And then that's why when the movie came out, yeah. So I just like what happened to all those great stories? There were hints of, echoes of, whispers of, but never quite the same. So that was funny. Um,
Oh my god, why am I searching on Bing?
I was wondering about that.
No, it's what I used to open my PDFs, but then I was searching in the wrong place.
Okay, it's like, oh, you're binging. Wah, wah, wah. I was worried that you had like not paid attention because like the Windows update that I got this morning when it started my computer, the first thing it asked me to do is like, "Hey, you want to change your default browser to Edge and then your search engine to Bing?" And like, really? Why is this an essential update for me? So that's funny. At the same time, I'm trying to skim through the entire list of horror comics on Comixology because I'm just double checking like which have I gotten, because I've gotten a few and I've read some, but I can't for the life of me always remember. But okay, I can talk about the ones I do remember, which I will then use this time to highlight. Lock and Key.
Mm.
So Lock and Key as a comic was a little slow to start. It was hard to fully appreciate it, and the art was not my favorite. It's a very distinct style that borders on cartoony at times, but over time, the power of the writing really wins out. And if you like the show barely scratches the surface of what Lock and Key really is.
Hmm.
And Lock and Key is actually a complete story. The series ran for a fixed number of arcs and then it's done.
Hmm.
And it is very, very good. And then the team only revisits it every now and then to write like these one shot
Hmm.
stories, but never like a full on arc for the family anymore. Like so far, that's been like the approach for things. Super, super, super good. I appreciate the Netflix series as an interesting interpretation of the
Hmm.
material, but like in many cases, the source material is still like
More
the
powerful.
superior product.
Yeah.
So I would super recommend Lock and Key. And then yes, I know there is a Lock and Key Sandman universe crossover. I have not read
I
any of
haven't
the
read that.
Sandman universe books. I have not read the crossover book because it's like $4 pa an issue. And I'm waiting for it to be compiled into a digital trade paperback and then
I
I
have
can
to
get that.
admit, I haven't started digging into those because the stories after the main Sandman
We're
line
never quite
ended
there.
with Daniel as the focus.
Mm.
I couldn't feel it. It
Although
just felt
Overture was okay. I like Overture.
Overture was okay, but it felt okay because it was a wrap up. It did feel like it was Daniel's story.
That's true. He was kind of incidental to all this. He was there
It was the
because he's
rest of
the
the
current
family
San.
that felt like they had more focus in Overture.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's White
White.
by Dan Schaefer.
Okay.
Um, So the whole thing is watercolored, and
Ooh, watercolor shark
yeah,
story.
so it has this nice pacing, and they don't rely on sound balloons and the like. They keep everything very. It almost feels like a storyboard for a movie.
Okay.
Pretty well done.
Okay. Ooh, like I'm skimming through. I'm only in letter D on Comixology. So they classify the darkness, the image
Mm.
comic, as a horror comic. What do you think about that?
Well, it has horror elements. The moment naman something has demons
Supernatural
and
demons.
stuff, they
That's
start saying it's
true.
a horror comic.
That's true.
So I wouldn't be again. I wouldn't be surprised if they see that as a horror comic.
Yeah, it's a good touch on point. Um, I guess segueing from things like Lock and Key, because of the writing connections, we can't talk about Stephen King. I mean, like Stephen King is a crazy prolific writer, and his books pretty solid.
Hmm.
Um, I've only been brave enough to read it, and I don't know why I read it. Like
Hmm.
the movie terrified me as a kid, and then I read the book, and the book kind of still terrified me. But it's just really really good. There's something about Stephen King's writing that, um, he has a good way to pace horror in the
Hmm.
context, within the confines of a novel. Because I mean that's not easy. Because a lot of what we associate with horror, is the feeling we get because we're of the like the visual appeal of movies and
Hmm.
stuff, that there's a setting, there's a look, there's a sound, there's a
Hmm.
musical score that all builds into how we think of as modern day pop culture horror.
Hmm.
And Stephen King's books don't have all that benefit,
Yeah.
but still convey a very strong feeling a lot of times. So that super fascinates me, and I promise myself that eventually I'll get around to reading more of his work, because, um, I want to better understand like how he does this with print, with text. So yeah. So but the main book, well, I read a lot of other Stephen King books, but the only like really horror book that I've read is It, and, I can understand why the very first adaptation was a miniseries
Hmm.
because it's a long book. It's a
and
very
and
thick
it's
book.
generational in the sense of
It is
the
generational.
story does take years to tell. It's not necessarily the next generation, but it does take years to tell. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Clive Barker.
Mm,
I'll always recommend Thief of Always. It's the children's story slash horror of Clive Barker, similar
okay.
to how Coraline is the horror children's story of Neil Gaiman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Beyond that one, many will cite the Books of Blood, of course, as a good one. Um, Hellbound Heart, if you're a fan of the Hellraiser series. I still really liked Mr. Begone, which was like this book that was self-aware that it contained a demon, and as you are reading it, it's telling you, "Don't read me, or else the demon will go free." But
Ooh,
of course, you can't help
creepy.
but read it to find out where the story goes.
Yeah.
Um, in as much as I'm a fan of Clive Barker's work, though, I'm less attached to his books and more attached to the adaptations.
Mm.
So everything from Nightbreed to Lord of Illusions, those were the stuff I really enjoyed. And then oddly, the one I really enjoyed the most is Abarat, which is his version of Neverwhere. It's his magic fantasy type of story.
Okay. Okay. Phew. What else? What else? Because there's stuff I've read that I wouldn't go as far as recommending, but I've read it.
Hmm.
Like, darn, what was that? What was that weird vampire series? Like the Fall. The one that got turned into a TV series. Uh, oh my god, now I can't remember. Now I'm gonna wade into the very dangerous search term of the strain.
Okay, I
The
was about to
strain.
say True Blood.
No, no, no,
Because
no.
True Blood did get turned into a series,
Yeah,
right?
yes,
It was the
but it was major
Stackhouse,
romance. Yeah, the
uh,
Suki
Suki
Stackhouse.
Stackhouse, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, um,
Midnight Mid Train is a Clive Barker story. Yes, I do believe so.
Do you just have it nearby?
So
Wow, the essential Clive Barker. That looks like right up there with like the newly released the Neil Gaiman reader. It's like, yes, let's curate stuff.
yeah, Midnight Meat Train, I do believe is because Barker was always horror of the flesh, or the human body is part of the horror. Stephen King was horror of the unknown. A
Mm,
fog rolls in, we don't know why.
yes,
Hey,
yes.
something happens, we don't know why. Okay, while you're searching, I shall also mention a few other stuff that has been nagging me, but I haven't really fully
Oh,
gotten into reading them.
sure.
So, fellow friend writer Daniel de Guzman has released Painting the Darkness, an anthology of dark speculative fiction, as well as Beautiful Blasphemy, which is a collection of dark poems. Both were available online, so I purchased to support. There's Enter the Survival Horror, which is a forged in the dark companion book for people who like Blades in the Dark but want to play it as a horror game.
What is Forged in the Dark for those
It's the
unfamiliar?
community creator line for Blades in the Dark inspired games.
But fiction or
And
settings?
you basically can create content
Okay, okay,
for Blades
okay.
in the Dark.
Because like I'm just asking because sometimes they have like the specific
Yes.
creative but for fiction and then
Yeah.
creative but for setting.
And given Blades in the Dark is about to have a TV series, it's going to be interesting where that will go.
Yar.
And then the last two things I'll mention, other than the all those episodes we talk about horror RPGs,
Okay.
there's
Which is a lot.
there's SCP, the tabletop role playing game.
SCP.
For those who are not familiar with SCP, SCP or the SCP Foundation is a fictional foundation that started as a collaborative writing thing where
Okay.
people would just come up with these anomalies or SCPs, strange things. So think like the Weeping Angels, for example. Um, so for an amount of time, people were just coming up and writing all these different SCP monsters with different security levels. No, the website's still up.
Mm.
So choose a number between 1 to 500.
Let's just say 8.
Okay,
So we don't go too far.
okay, so let's look at SCP number 8. We have zombie. It's the zombie plague, and look, clearance level 4 is needed to read it, so we're not allowed to read it because they have this huge
Is this
community
is
of
this the same
creating.
thing that that helped inspire Control or something?
Yes.
Okay. The
So-
game.
So there's now a role playing game inspired by it.
Oh, okay.
So its own RPG system. Over 290 pages worth of content. And then you also have, out of all things you'd expect, Creepy Pasta, the role playing game.
Creepy pasta. Okay.
For those who don't know, Creepy Pasta similarly was a crowd-sourced, crowd collective, um, I guess you could say movement where people all came up with their weird stories and freaky tales.
Okay.
And everyone just enjoyed reading stuff about it. Stuff that reached a lot of mileage included the sleep experiments from Russia. I don't know if you've seen those images.
No.
Where supposedly the person doesn't sleep and he starts seeing God that starts clawing his eyes out. Or Slenderman.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's like internet famous.
And then you have the grinning dancing man.
what is the grinning dance?
A guy who's grinning and dancing on the street. And if you notice him, he keeps dancing and grinning towards you.
I don't know this, and I
And
don't
as you
think
run, he'll run. But then when
I
you stop, he
don't think
stops
I
and
want to
dances
know.
again. So it's a lot of stuff like that. And there is now a role playing game that explores those things as well.
So is it you're fighting them? Are you them?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't really gotten to fully read it.
Ooh,
But it feels very old
Ooh.
school. Look at that character sheet. Old school.
so many things on it,
Yes.
and it does not flow from top to bottom. It's like step 1 on top, step 2 in the middle. Okay. Oh, as I was skimming through and like going through Comixology, I'd forgotten that I had Anthony Bourdain's Hungry Ghosts,
Mm.
which was this interesting. Um, it basically an anthology because like they end up telling stories of it's the whatever different ghost stories
Mhm.
on the ghost night, and then it's just fun. It's like it's a fun little ghost story thing, but it's set like in Japan.
Mhm.
And it's so funny because it's like it's Anthony Bourdain, and then his love for the region just really translated into writing all these things celebrating Japanese culture. So it's currently on sale, but it's a Dark Horse. It's published by Dark Horse, so or Burger Book on the Dark Horse. So that's cool. So like on my list, it's like so I promised myself I would eventually read Hellboy.
Mhm.
So I've been holding back from buying books from the rest of the lines like
Mhm.
Abe Sapien and what's this or that other one, what's BPRD, whatever.
Yeah,
So
the bureau.
yeah, so I just focused on I just have some of the Hellboy omnibuses and I have to read those first before I get around to it.
And I think that's why Hellboy was more fun for me than Trece.
Mm.
Because Hellboy has pulp elements.
Yeah, yeah. I
I,
get that.
I
And we
get
do like our pulp
I get how
stories.
close they are in feel and theme, and that's because one did influence the other a lot.
Mm-mm.
But the fact that Hellboy has, you know, um, a sentient gas thing in a suit, and you know, characters that are obviously not human, but not outright.
And then I still I just started reading the Morrisons of
Mm,
Doom Patrol, which is not like horror, but there are lots of disturbing moments, and um, I want to embrace that fully. Oh,
yeah. Dennis was asking if we read
we
Junji. We
we
haven't opened
mentioned
this one, but
we
yes.
mentioned Junji Ito earlier in the stream, but yeah, it's that's in my queue also
Mhm.
for reading. And then I'm thinking what else would stand out, like because okay, there's Neil Gaiman stuff that uh well, Neil Gaiman has stories meant for all ages, and actually, it's like some of his in recent years, he's been doing a lot of scary stuff for like younger audiences. Well, not scary, scary, but then like scary setting or like spooky-ish, like things like the Graveyard Book,
Mhm.
where literally it's a boy who's raised by ghosts. But it's a very, very good story, and then I now own it both as a book and as a graphic novel, which is beautifully, beautifully illustrated.
So
So
far.
I may have also the audiobook. I forget if I got it on sale. So there's like nice. That's a nice thing to always look into. Coraline, of course,
Mhm.
is great. I have it as a book, as a graphic novel
Mhm.
so far. So
And then you can't
those
go
hand up.
wrong with digging into old Vertigo line stories.
Yes,
Everything from Kill Your Boyfriend to The Eaters, Kid Eternity, Black Orchid. I always remember that
you made me
story.
read Black
Yeah,
Orchid.
I always remember that story when it was Black Hawk Kid, when Neil Gaiman was pitching it, and
Mm.
they were like trying to understand the title. What, Black Hawk Kid? Um,
Which reminds me, like I also like, and I haven't acquired copies. Yeah, this is
mhm.
like one day I'll do it on sale. Is that I kind of want to read the original like Constantine stuff,
Mm.
the original
Those are
Hellblazer,
those are good.
the original Hellblazer before like he got New 52 and all that and became
And
like
we're looking to get these digitally.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
it's painful now to look for the actual ones.
yeah. And then I mean like that's which is why I also have so many comics. It's just that if I can get an issue at 99 cents, I can get a trade paperback at half
Mhm.
its price, and then it will end up being like $5 or $10 for an omnibus. And it's super solid. And then I read faster on digital. So it's nice to have them, that'll always be there, but then space, all these things. So space and fading eyes. So that's why I keep going back to things like, oh, like I recently reminded myself, I have the whole Emily Strange. Like I have it in a
Mhm.
full omnibus thing, and it's not horror, but it's like creepy goth girl ish
Yeah.
thing, which I'm sure will has horror elements to it. So that's like forever in my queue. And then some could even argue even some of the early Judge Dredd stuff, which I also have acquired. It's like very dark in tone.
Mhm.
So things. Um what else do we want to read? Uh, you already covered a lot of stuff.
Mm-mm.
Um, 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 um. I don't know if I'll ever go back to Anne Rice. Like, it was quaint. I read it because I had nothing else to read, but then like I didn't really get drawn into it.
I'm tempted to try reading her her blasphemous line. Remember, she had a bunch of novels where it was all about Jesus.
Oh, unfamiliar.
Yeah,
Unfamiliar.
am I misspeaking? I know there is an Anne Rice. Um,
Although I will admit that I'm kind of curious about going back to Anne Rice eventually, even for like one repeat run, only because I read Anne Rice before I played any vampire role playing games.
there. So there were the Vampire Chronicles. There were the
Yes.
Mayfair Witches. There was the Christ the Lord.
Oh, it's literally
Um,
called Christ the Lord.
it's Christ the Lord out of Egypt and Christ the Lord Road to Canaan.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I'm like, I've always avoided them before because I was still thinking, this I don't think this feels comfortable. But now I kind of feel more like, okay, let's see how she wrote these. So I'm kind of curious. So the first book is her depicting the life of Jesus at age 7 to 8,
Oh,
and then the
okay.
other one is the life of Jesus as a 4-part series. But that's all. That's it.
Mm. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Oh, and then now I don't. Now I realize there's like okay. I I mentioned I read other Stephen King. So the main thing I really love about Stephen King is The Dark Tower.
Mm-hmm.
Great series. Not really horror.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different setting.
It's his Imagica. It's his Neverwhere.
Yes, but if you read the comics, which still like
Jaylee.
it's the J. Lee art, and then they cover different periods outside of what the books
Mm-hmm.
covered, then there are some very horrific elements to it, which are
Mm-hmm.
really brought to life in this scarily beautiful way by J. Lee's art.
Yes.
So, like if you do want a more like horror experience rather than the books, I would recommend the comics because oh my god, the books are great, but the comics are something else, something else. Ooh, I've always wanted to read the
Something.
more run. Yeah,
Yeah. Swamp Thing
and
is.
let me finish saying when I was going to
What? You
celebrate.
did. You finished saying
No, I
it.
didn't say. I didn't even say the word. I didn't say. I was tongue tied between saying Swamp Thing and the Alan Moore run of Swamp Thing, and then you just said Swamp Thing.
Because Swamp Thing is awesome. You have a woman in love with a plant that thinks it was her husband. I mean, that's amazingly strong stuff.
It's a good premise. It's a good premise. Yeah, and I'm like skimming through the rest of comicsology stuff. Like I haven't like quite gotten through. And these are not the things I own. It's like everything they classify as having
Hmm.
horror. And I was just wanted to see what have I bought that that ties to this. So it's not necessarily a lot. I thought I had more than I did, but like not quite there. One thing I was surprised to see here in their horror classification is Fatal, which uh, I thought would be more pulp because it's Brubaker and stuff.
Oh, you could mention Beauty.
Oh, Beauty! Oh my god. Okay, Beauty. While still not like super horrific,
Hmm.
but Beauty is this disturbing world where there is this STD which they call the Beauty, which is when you
Hmm.
contract it, you become the most beautiful, perfect version of yourself.
Hmm.
So that doesn't seem like a bad side effect, right? It's still an STD, so people know when you've caught it because I say that's fatal. Like
Hmm.
I have the whole fatal run fatal. So you become absolutely beautiful. So they know that you've gotten sick. It's like if HIV except you become beautiful.
Hmm.
One caveat. People start spontaneously combusting into flame.
Hmm.
But the funny thing about the comic is that it doesn't follow one particular story. It does arcs of stories set in this world. But then it's like an anthology series. And then like there was like the first arc dealt with this particular aspect. The second arc dealt with these police guys. the third arc interconnected them, but then it wasn't like essential. So it's very very interesting. I love the beauty. I love the beauty. It was a great comic. I forget if it is just on hiatus or done. And then I guess the other one was Monstrous,
Hmm.
which it's a little harder for me to get into because the art is very anime, very soft anime thing, and it's not full on horror, but it has that nice kind of spooky. Well, kind of there's a spooky side to its mysticism, and then it's all about a lot of legacy, very very Asian inspired, like very legacy powers, legacy monsters, and all that. So the monstrous is cool. Monstrous is cool.
So while I guess my last item, while I'll always say Enigma is worth a read, despite not being horror, it's
Mm,
really more a deconstruction of a superhero concept and gender.
yes.
Um, the same team up, Peter Milligan and the Confederate Gredo, worked on a Vertigo book called Face.
Mm,
Face was a 90s one shot story um, that has to do with a plastic surgeon and a reclusive artist. And clearly, the face is involved at some point.
mm.
And pretty unnerving, beautifully illustrated. Another one of my favorites.
Okay. Okay. Darn, I was gonna ask. I had something I wanted to ask. I think it was Vertigo, and now I can't remember.
Doom
It's
Patrol?
no, 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 no. Oh, fiddlesticks. Um, okay, uh, things like Spawn. What are your thoughts on Spawn? Like, I never read Spawn.
Well, they have horror elements, but I'm not particularly. Um, I don't find it scary.
Okay, okay.
Um, Same with like there was the Daredevil run where he fights Mephisto, and that had lots of horrific
Mm.
visuals as well. Um,
Oh, I now remember what I'm gonna ask.
mm.
What can we talk about on the Cthulhu front, on the Lovecraft front? Are
So,
there what writings, not necessarily just by Lovecraft, would you recommend?
so Neonomicon was one. That
Neonomicon.
comic was just really, really good in giving a Lovecraftian spin.
Mm, mm.
Um, Sorry, burping.
Burp! Burping!
Oh, what is the name of that other book? Hmm. Wait, let me see if I can find it.
Um, oh, on a not full recommendation, I was just surprised. So I finally read the Marvel Now run on Carnage. So
Hmm.
someone Conway, something Conway did his whole series for Carnage. But then his take on it was sort of Carnage Cthulhu
Mm.
because it was Carnage discovering that he has a prophetic role to play
Yeah, that God
in the
thing.
Darkhold, in the dark, but it's not even tied to the King in Black,
Not that one
not
yet.
the symbiote king
Okay.
yet. This is like before that pa. And but he plays a role with the Darkhold, and then the Darkhold is able to soup him up, and like he can super turn into people, into his symbiote minions. And it they bring back uh the leader or whatever ng Darkhold Redeemers,
Hmm.
the one who's like from the line of priests who are like more resistant to the sway of the Darkhold, together with uh, Jameson's son, the one who turns into Manwolf,
Hmm.
and they reveal that the Moonstone has fused to him permanently. So even though it's been taken off, it manifests in his blood, so he can still turn into the Manwolf, and he still doesn't remember.
Oh.
So it's like it's this funny little team of heroes together. And then Venom, Eddie Brock was not Venom at the time. He's Toxin, Toxin. So it's this weird team put together to chase Carnage. And then yeah, it ends everything with like an island with frog human cultists worshiping and trying to summon a dark thing. It's full on, and they were so ultimately they're summoning Cathon,
Hmm.
like if I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, which is essentially Marvel Cthulhu. He's like, and they really it's everything elder gods whatnot. not the best story in the world, but it makes for amusing, like Marvel flavored Marvel superhero line flavored horror. So
Mm.
it's like I was surprised with it, and that's actually because I was just trying to clear my reading queue, and I've owned these comics since 2016. Then I finally read them this year, and then like that's what made me decide let's go Halloween. Let's read scary things. So then I'm reading Aliens for now.
So there's Nameless, Grant Morrison, very Cthulhu-esque astronauts encountering something unthinkable in space.
Except I'm like, do I have this? Oops,
You do.
I do. I haven't read it.
There's Nemovore,
Okay.
6 issue limited series, also released in Vertigo. Um, it has a young snowboarder who has a career-ending head injury, loses part of her memory, but that then brings up questions on what's really
Oh,
going
there's
on.
the vampire line.
Um,
Okay.
there's Providence, which is again by Alan Moore,
Okay.
similar to uh,
He has a flair for exploring the genre.
yeah, he really does. Similar to Neonomicon, Providence is more quintessential H.P. Lovecraft, wherein you have a guy who does try to investigate something, and in this run, encounters people, which is very thinly veiled racism in the
Mm,
sense of
mm.
Lovecraft is racist, and a lot of his stories about people with the Innsmouth look and people from Innsmouth being odd and weird is because they were not white. Um, but of course, in the setting, they were connected to supposedly some greater dark god and all this and that. So that Providence is his touch on that. Um, I never found From Hell as a horror thing, despite
Really?
a lot of people finding it as horror because it's Ripper, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
felt it was more clinical than horror,
Mm, mm.
and I guess that's just me. I didn't feel it was a horror book.
Okay, so I am reminded that uh other one I'm gonna wish list the vampire books. Wait lang. So that if they ever go on sale, I get them also.
Yeah, the face.
I like to support.
It opens with him cutting his face open as he talks about the medical procedure, and it's just
Yeah.
him visualizing it.
Oh, okay. I was going to say very like I've been tempted looking at this because obviously the sales of comicsology now are like horror
Mhm.
related. So Image, Dark Horse, Dynamite, all these comic lines. So I have picked up Aliens and Vampirella because it's on sale. To add to my aliens related reading. I've been wanting to read though. I've been tempted to get, but I don't have the courage because there are too many books. Is that the old like Tales from the Crypt
Mm,
style comics?
mm.
They're like
Yeah, those classic old ones,
digital compilations are on sale right now. I'm like,
and
oh my
and
god,
most likely they all end with a lesson.
yes! With the no, with the three different hosts: the Crypt Keeper, the Witch,
Mhm.
and the oh my god, who's the other one? The Witch is the old hag.
Mhm.
Then there's this one other host because they were rivals, all three. At least they were crossover comics. Okay.
Have you gotten into any of the Joe Hill stuff? I tried. I think there was Basket Full of Heads, and then there was another one. I wasn't getting the feel of it, so I stopped. The Lolo Woods, I think. No, no, no. That was yeah. That's it. The Hill House. Yeah, Lolo Woods.
I can only say Lock and Key.
Lock and Key was a Joe Hill thing.
Yes,
Oh, I did not realize.
yes.
Okay.
New perspective.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I've only read Lock and Key, um, from Joe Hill stuff. That's why I segued into Stephen King after talking about Lock and Key.
Okay.
Okay, okay, that's cool. Cool. More sharing in this front. Um, so yeah, so like my reading list is eventually getting around to Hellboy. Oh, what I have, which I have only read one issue of,
Mm.
and then like it was harder than to read than I thought, was American Vampire,
Mm.
which uh it starts kasi Old West. and
Mm-mm.
I'm so not into Western settings. So, but it's really trying to tell like vampire stories across the generations. So, and I have the whole series run, so I should read it. Um, and I will eventually. But I'll see if I can squeeze some in this October.
I'm trying to remember. There was a Western horror comic that I did enjoy. Um,
I'm looking at my shelves. I'm trying to think also of what else. Um,
can't remember the name.
how about all of you? Like, what are your recommendations for
East
horror
of
reading?
West,
East of West.
but it wasn't really horror. I just felt it was dystopian dark. John Hickman.
So you want to read it? I haven't. Because it's Hickman, so I picked it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
This is Toby's fault also, no? It's like he has taught me to appreciate particular writers,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have a lot of Hickman, I have Matt Fraction, I have Morrison. So there are a lot of
But
these
they're good
things.
reading.
There are a lot of these things that when I see that they're on sale
Mm-hmm.
and I have no idea what they're about, I'll pick them up. Especially if it's like it's a finished series now, then
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, the Matt Kint stuff, which is really more espionage-ish
Yeah,
a
it's
lot,
like super spy ideas.
but then psychic espionage in
Yeah,
in some cases,
very good.
and very different concepts. See, I have a bunch of, and I have a lot of those too. Like
Mind management is like up there, but like you have. I super love the title Department H.
you always rave about the
Such a
title
perfect
Department
title.
H because it's underwater, so it's depth.
Such a
Department
good
H,
title.
depth H. So good, so good. We're
And then the only other one which I hate that did that was the video game Invisible Ink,
mm,
because it's again Invisible Ink,
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
spy corporation.
Yeah, although it's not quite as not as not up there with depth
Mm-mm.
age. Oh yeah, sorry. Then like on a very mild horror front is probably the Lucifer comics, but then like even that was like really just more supernatural exploration, but
Mm-mm.
not horror. So I guess what are for you like what are the hallmarks of good horror writing or like yeah in terms of books and comics? What makes it feel like very horror to you?
They know how to hold back.
Mm.
The best horror kasi never tell you everything. So you end up thinking worse.
Because again it's that playing on the unknown
Yeah.
and the
And that's what Clive Barker does so well when he talks about the gory stuff.
mm,
He talks about it but doesn't get too detailed. So you still
you
end up
fill in the
yeah.
gaps.
And then Stephen King naman, he does that so well with what you're about to see.
Mm,
So he has a
yeah.
lot of stared into the darkness and saw blah 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 blah. But he's not describing what you're seeing. He's describing how the character feels.
Yes, yes.
And that's when
He
you
situates it very in
uh
his POV characters. I haven't realized that, but now that you point it out, yes.
Gaiman, his horror is because it's so relatable.
Yeah,
You
that's true.
you end up going, crap, I know this feeling, or I've been there before.
Yeah, I think like if you really want like fun like horror esque stuff, then you really need to read his short fiction
Mhm.
because he's a lot of interesting explorations. It's hard to recommend like a particular volume now, so I would just say keep a lookout for the Neil Gaiman Reader, which is like the new like curated set of his stories, and some of his horror stuff is bound to be there. I don't have a copy yet. I'm trying to resolve in my head if I'm going to buy the same stories I've already read in a new format. And the answer is probably going to be yes eventually. But for now, I haven't gotten it yet. Okay. Okay. So, I think it's way more than anyone could possibly read in the in the remaining days of October leading up to Halloween. So you have your options for what you want to
These are
explore.
all recommendations. We doubt you'll be able to try them all, but if you do try any of them, do let us know and send us some comments about it.
Yeah, and or like if yeah, if people encounter this video in the future and you have your own recommendations, whether in the comic book front or in the full novel front, or novellas or whatever you, or again the
Depending on how much you purchase them.
things written on tissue paper, then let us know, and we'd appreciate that. Okay, is that our episode?
Yeah.
All right, all right. So, thanks for people who hung on to the end of this. It's like horror comics. Oh my god! But we love these stories, and then we went back to horror. Okay,
Yeah.
so for questions or suggestions for future episodes, you can fill up the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. Was this a request? No,
No.
no, we just came up with
Wait,
this.
no, I think it
Or was
was.
it Kenny? Was it Kenny?
I think it was.
Mom Meow? Now we're double checking. Scramble! Scramble at the very end of the episode. We never thanked who suggested it.
No,
No,
not
no, not
specific.
necessarily. Because
Yeah, not
because they
specific.
had requests that were more specific, like horror protagonists
Yeah.
and
Okay.
whatever. Okay. So this is us. This is us. And then you can follow us on Twitter, all Toby No Shade, RG Sunico.
You could also check out our blog, badaypray.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
So feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is
Baduy
Baduy Pride. Happy reading.